The CLE continues its war of words with a former board member. The Thunder Bay generating station on the agenda as the legislature resumes sitting. And the U.S. president makes his case for a military strike in Syria. Good evening and thank you for being with us this evening. The war of words continues between the Canadian Lakehead Exhibition and an ousted member of their board of directors.
CLE officials are refuting claims by Linda Gamby that she never threatened to take legal action against the board. She made that comment in an interview with TBT News on Friday.
Made a decision. Of course, the legal opportunity is there for me to take. I'm sort of looking at different options. I have never said that I would sue anyone at this point. It doesn't mean that it might be a possibility, but I may not do it either.
Today, the CLE board issued a statement which included the minutes from previous board meetings. Those discussions from April, May, and June appear to show that Gamby had in fact threatened to sue the board, or at least some of the people on it. Gamby apparently distributed a letter to the board on May 28th regarding her previous comments to sue. It shows her saying she never intended to sue the entire board, just a handful of individuals. So far, no lawsuit for defamation has actually been filed, but CLE officials say just the threat of a lawsuit is enough to hold a vote to remove a board member for conflict of interest. Neither Gamby nor CLE board chair Rita Stoger was available for comment today.
The sentencing hearing for convicted murderer Leif Hobson has been pushed back for a second time. The final decision in the murder case was supposed to take place today, but has now been moved to the end of the month. Hobson was convicted in the 2009 death of 65-year-old Edgar Marion. Hobson pleaded guilty in July to second-degree murder, causing an indignity to human remains, stealing property, and intentionally causing damage by fire. Both the Crown and the defense have agreed that the 23-year-old should receive a life sentence with eligibility for parole in 15 years. But the sentencing was delayed due to the Thunder Bay Indian Friendship Centre's inability to produce a GLADU report. That report helps the judge take into account the circumstances facing Aboriginal people and is required when sentencing an offender of Aboriginal background. Justice Bruce Fitzpatrick will now deliver his sentence on September 24th.
Premier Kathleen Wynne warns she will call an election if the opposition keeps preventing any bills from being passed. The legislature resumed today for the fall session. Wynne has asked for meetings with PC leader Tim Hudak and NDP leader Andrew Horwath to see what bills, if any, they can agree to pass this fall. The Premier insists she isn't seeking a fall election, but warns she doesn't want another session like last spring, where the only bill that passed was the provincial budget. Meanwhile, Horwath questioned Wynne today about her recent visit to Thunder Bay, where the Premier refused to give a clear answer about the local generating station.
She hasn't delivered on the twice promised, twice cancelled conversion of the Thunder Bay generating station, and in fact, Northerners have watched as the Liberal government blew over $500 million cancelling gas plants in Southern Ontario, and they blew $20 million cancelling the Thunder Bay gas plant conversion twice. Now, Northerners are asking themselves what's going on here. They need results, and they don't need photo ops and endless conversations. My question is a pretty basic one, Speaker. When can the people of the Northwest expect some clear answers about their energy future?
What I have to say is that I did spend time in the North. I did travel the province this summer, and the result of that travel, Mr. Speaker, my travel in the past and in this summer, is that the needs and concerns of regions in the province, Mr. Speaker, make their way to our policy discussions, and that results in better outcomes for the people of the province. So I was happy to be there, and I was happy to go again.
Wynne was also peppered with questions today from PC members about alleged attempts by Liberal staffers to influence the Speaker of the House on the cancelled gas plants in Oakville and Mississauga.
Thunder Bay City Council will be getting back to business tonight with a number of items on the agenda, including a possible change in the speed limit on part of Junot Avenue. The proposal would see the limit reduced to 40 kilometers per hour near the Boys and Girls Club. Pedestrian signals would also be established at Windsor Street in 2015. The change is part of Phase 3 of the Golf Links reconstruction project. Meanwhile, City Councillor Trevor Gertuga is hoping to see a safety survey completed for the intersection of Valley Street, Jameson Street, and Sherwood Drive. He's asking city staff to help identify safety issues that will not only outline possible options, but provide costs to improve traffic and safety in the area. In other business, a recommendation regarding the supply and installation of a new transit information system will be on the agenda as well. It's part of a contract awarded to Novabus at a cost of $627,000.
With the next federal election less than 2 years away, the NDP is gearing up for a run at Prime Minister Stephen Harper and the Conservatives. The party's annual Summer Caucus gets underway tomorrow in Saskatchewan. There are a host of issues on the table, including the election. Thunder Bay Rainy River MP John Rafferty says the main focus is rallying the troops for the 2015 election. The hope is that the NDP can carry forward the momentum they gained from the election 2 years ago. The party will also be outlining its strategy for the fall session of Parliament. Rafferty has a few issues he wants brought to the forefront, including infrastructure funding for not only bridges in the Northwest, but also for the Royal Canadian Legions.
In many places in Quebec, Fort Francis, Emo, and right across northern Ontario, legions are the center of cultural and social activity in many of these communities. And so those are the things that I try to highlight for Northern Ontario. And then there are some larger projects in places like Thunder Bay, the conference center, for example, and those sorts of issues that I'll be fighting for.
Rafferty says unfortunately he will not be attending the caucus meeting because of a minor health issue.
Fort Francis OPP are investigating a death at the Emo Speedway. Police were called to the racetrack Saturday night by Rainy River EMS after a driver operating a stock car suddenly left the track during a race. The 67-year-old driver from Vermilion Bay was found unresponsive in the vehicle and was pronounced dead at the scene. The incident is considered to be a sudden death and not a traffic collision. A postmortem is to be conducted at the Lake of the Woods District Hospital.
One person remains in hospital with what are described as life-threatening injuries following a car-horse collision near Dryden. It happened Friday evening on Highway 17 in Wainwright Township when the eastbound car struck two horses standing on the roadway. OPP say a passenger in the vehicle was treated and released from the Dryden Health Center. One of the horses was killed in the crash and the other is expected to recover from its injuries. Dryden OPP were also called to the rescue when a would-be bear hunter got more than he bargained for. Officers were called around 11 Saturday night over a hunter who had left for his tree stand and failed to return. When the camp owner went to check on him, he found the hunter cornered in the tree stand by 3 adult bears and 4 cubs. Police say they were able to scare the bears off without firing a shot, and the hunter was escorted to safety uninjured.
The Awareness Week for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder kicked off today here in the city on several fronts. Members of the Norwest Community Health Centers were handing out water bottles at Thunder Bay LCBO locations to remind residents that water is better than alcohol when pregnant. Cheryl Holmes has more.
The Nor'Wester Community Health Center wants you to know there's no safe amount of alcohol to consume when you're pregnant.
We know what the result is. It's a life-sustaining issue. There's no cure for it. It affects people who are pregnant, and it causes tremendous damage to the brain of the fetus.
Members from the centers are handing out water bottles to LCBO shoppers, indicating that water is much safer than alcohol for women who are or may be pregnant. The Norwest Community Health Center works with people who have FASD and their families, offering different programs and support groups to provide structure in the lives of those dealing with FASD.
Often they can't live on their own, they can't live without supports because their brain does not develop according to the average person's brain. It's a lifelong problem, and it is very difficult for these individuals to cope with society.
The LCBO has hopped on board with the initiative this year as part of their goal to promote responsible drinking.
Obviously, being an alcohol retailer, that's something that is very important to us, and we want to do our part provincially for across the province of Ontario.
FASD is particularly an issue in this region. In our city alone, a shocking 1 in 5 children born at Thunder Bay Regional show signs of the disorder. That's far higher than the national average, and it weighs heavy on local resources. The city's hoping that by promoting initiatives like this, it'll help people to stop drinking while they're pregnant to reduce the problems our younger generations have.
Because when you're born with either alcoholism from fetal alcohol syndrome problem or drug dependency, that's with you for life, and that's putting 2 strikes against you. It leads to all other diseases, which puts more pressure on the healthcare system and causes problems socially within the city. So it's really important we deal with this issue.
Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is 100% preventable. Cheryl Holmes, TBT News.
Meanwhile, the Aboriginal FASD Planning Committee hosted its 5th annual Honoring Mothers Powwow. The event was held in recognition of International FASD Day. The event was originally scheduled for the Spirit Garden at Prince Arthur's Landing, but was moved indoors to the Anishinaabe-Mishkiki Health Center due to the weather. Community support worker Kelly Hicks says she hopes today's event will raise awareness of fetal alcohol's effect on newborns. She says drinking during pregnancy can cause lasting damage to a child's brain.
It has physical features too. It can affect the heart, the liver, the kidney, any organ that happens to be growing at the time. The brain, though, being the most important one that it seems to get the most damage from it. And that leads to lifelong disabilities and difficulties, sometimes leading to incarceration, drug abuse, involvement with gangs, a whole gamut of social issues.
Every year in Canada, an estimated 1 out of every 100 babies are born with FASD.
We mentioned earlier in the news hour the discussion at Queen's Park today about the conversion of the Thunder Bay generating station. Well, work continues to be on time and on budget at the site of another major energy plant conversion here in the Northwest, this one in Atikokan. Construction on what will become North America's largest biomass power plant has been a major job creator. More than 300 people are now on the site busy with that project. Dennis Ward has the latest.
Major construction and modifications at the Atikokan generating station continue to progress right on schedule. Work continues on the 2 silos and transfer tower. Inside, a major overhaul is also underway. Station manager Ray Clement says tests are coming soon.
First fires, actually, we're looking to test on gas initially, so we're looking at October this year. And we won't be commissioning on biomass fuel until we get the fuel delivered and tested out and ready for that first part of next year, so first quarter next year, and commercially available by the end of June next year.
It's been exactly 1 year since the last piece of coal was used at the plant. On top of the construction, cleanup of the remnants of the days gone by are also underway.
Part of the closure coming off the coal, we've had to finish up the remediation on our coal pile. So we're covering that off and going to hydroseed that for a finish. And we're also closing out the ash cell, which was the old ash pit. We diverted quite a bit of that ash, but now we've got to basically taper it off, cap it out, and prepare a front cell for the wood ash.
Once completed, this will be the largest biomass plant on the continent. The $170 million job has been great for Atikokan, says Mayor Dennis Brown. Vacant homes, apartments, and hotel rooms have been filled with construction workers. The work underway also marks a personal victory for Brown, who still has the 2005 letter indicating the plant would be shut down. But the mayor says keeping the plant alive was a community effort.
It's been quite a struggle, and we have to give a lot of credit to the people of Atikokan. They all became involved, and they made phone calls, attended meetings, and wrote letters, and so on, and it all worked out in the end, and we're very thankful that it has.
The plant will still be capable of producing 225 megawatts when the power is needed. The Atikokan generating station will also continue to employ roughly 80 people in the future. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
With classes getting started at Lakehead University and Confederation College, there's another issue that most students now face: getting a job. Finding part-time work during the school year can sometimes be a challenge, but there are jobs available for students who need them. Jack Cleverdon is with Yes Employment Services and says they've seen an influx of students using their services in the last couple of weeks. And the good news is that there's lots of work available. Cleverdon explains that it'll be tougher for those who are going to be picky about where they work, but Thunder Bay is a seasonal community and employers are already hiring students for the upcoming busy season.
When you're talking about the retail or the customer service end of things, a lot of employers are still recruiting, especially this time of year when we're in the upswing, or Christmas is just around the corner, and we have the hotel and restaurant industry that is just about to eclipse to the point where they're going to start making some money. We have a lot of hockey tournaments and Christmas banquets, so they're going to be needing staff as well.
Cleverdon adds that the shipping, receiving, and automotive industries will also be seeking more employees in the near future.
Well, turning to weather, Fiona, for those who have to work outdoors, my heart goes out to you. It was a rainy start to the week.
That's a great day to be a duck. It was very wet and a little on the cool side. In fact, we had a fair amount of precipitation during the day, not a whole lot overnight. It started a little bit later than some had expected, but you can see it was a solid mass moving in. The good news is the heavy rainfall warning that we were under for much of the day has ended. The worst of it has passed. Now, we topped out with a high of 16 with that light rain, and winds are relatively light, ranging from just 5 kilometers per hour up to 18. At this moment across the region, it's just mainly cloudy. There's not a lot of rainfall at the moment. That's all we can say at this point. But temperatures are slightly below seasonal in most areas by a couple degrees or so. And tonight, Thunder Bay is going to drop down to a low of 14, which is actually quite mild for an overnight low, but we could see another 3 to 5 millimeters of rain with winds coming in from the east-northeast. Now, as I said, the brunt of the precipitation is moving out tonight and into tomorrow. A lot of the active weather, the storms, the potential for thunder and lightning, that's heading eastward, but we still have the center of this low. There's still enough in it that we are looking at precipitation for tomorrow and into tomorrow night, possibly even squeezing into Wednesday. The good news is, though, there are slightly warmer temperatures, so it won't be quite so cold and damp if you are outside for any length of time. But I'll have more details on what we can expect for the week after that low gets out of there. It's later on in the news hour.
All right, thanks very much, Fiona. Some major developments today regarding the Syrian dispute, including a surprise offer from the Syrian government. Details on that story and more for you as your news hour continues.
We call on the Syrian leadership not only to put chemical weapons in storage facilities under international control, but also to destroy it afterward.
The heated back and forth between the U.S. and Syria boiled over today with a surprising result.
On the heels of a Russian proposal, Syria has agreed to turn over its arsenal of chemical weapons for destruction. Neil MacDonald has that story.
You're going to pay the price.
Both Bashar al-Assad and Barack Obama made their cases in front of TV cameras today for and against punitive strikes on Syria. Meanwhile, though, the whole American march to war seemed to be upended by chess moves elsewhere. Obama's own Secretary of State apparently triggered it with what sounded like a contemptuous answer about whether Assad could do anything to prevent American airstrikes.
Sure, he could turn over every single bit of his chemical weapons to the international community in the next week. Turn it over, all of it, without delay, and allow a full and total accounting for that. But he isn't about to do it, and it can't be done.
Clearly, though, that idea was seriously discussed at last week's G20 meeting in Russia. Russia is Syria's patron, and today, Russia ran with it. We call on the Syrian leadership not only to put chemical weapons in storage facilities under international control, but also to destroy it afterward, declared Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Then, almost immediately, the UN Secretary General endorsed the idea.
I'm considering urging the Security Council to demand the immediate transfer of Syria's chemical weapons and chemical precursor stocks to places inside Syria where they can be safely stored and destroyed.
Ban Ki-moon said the Security Council's paralysis on Syria so far has been embarrassing. Finally, Syria said it welcomes the proposal, although it didn't say whether it actually accepts it. So, while President Obama struggles against world opinion and the opinion of his own public to carry out airstrikes in Syria, Russia, which actually armed Syria in the first place, gets to position itself as the voice of negotiation and compromise. And all of this in just a couple of hours. Neil MacDonald, CBC News, Washington.
A man charged with killing 3 colleagues in an armored truck robbery has pleaded guilty today to 3 counts of murder. It happened in June of last year at the University of Alberta. Briar Stewart reports.
The trial was expected to last 1 week, but this morning Travis Baumgartner pleaded guilty to killing 3 of his colleagues and injuring a 4th. More than 100 people were in the courtroom as the Crown read out from the agreed statement of facts and basically gave some of the details of what happened that night and shortly afterwards. Baumgartner had been working as an armed guard for the armored car company G4S that night, and he'd only been with the company for a couple of months, but he was having a lot of financial problems. He owed money on his truck, he owed his friends money, and the night before the shooting he got into an argument with his mother about rent money. That night Baumgartner was part of a crew that went to the University of Alberta to make a delivery of money to the ATM machines there. Once they were inside a sealed off locked room, that's when Baumgartner took out his revolver and shot 3 of his co-workers in the head. After that he went outside and shot a 4th guard who was waiting nearby in the truck. Now Baumgartner then disposed of his revolver and his vest in the river. He went and dropped money off at some friend's house and at his mother's house as well. That's when he fled in his car towards BC. He tried to cross into the United States, but of course his image and his license plate were on officers' radar and he was arrested by border guards there. Michelle Shigelski, Brian Elisic, and Eddie Rajano were killed in the shooting. Matthew Schumann was shot in the head and severely injured, but he is slowly recovering. Baumgartner will still have to be formally sentenced for the killings, but because he pleaded guilty to 1 count of first-degree murder, that carries a maximum of life in prison with no eligibility of parole for 25 years. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Edmonton.
The editor-in-chief of the Toronto Star insists that every word of his newspaper story about the alleged Rob Ford crack video is true. It comes as the Star and the Globe and Mail defend themselves against public complaints of irresponsible journalism when reporting about the mayor and his brother Doug. Jeff Semple spent the day at the Ontario Press Council hearing and has this report.
We do not have a vendetta against Mr. Ford.
Reporters with the Toronto Star found themselves on the receiving end of a tough interview.
The seriousness of the allegations needs to be taken into account.
Questions about those serious allegations published in the Star last May about a video the Star says appears to show Mayor Ford smoking crack. That was followed by another article in the Globe and Mail alleging Doug Ford was a prominent hash dealer in the 1980s. Allegations both Ford brothers adamantly denied.
These allegations are ridiculous.
The press council's job is not to decide whether those reports are true, but rather whether the journalism behind them was responsible. The Toronto Star was grilled as to why it rushed to publish the story only after it appeared on U.S. website Gawker, giving the mayor just 3 hours to respond.
But we did not rush the story into publication at the sacrifice of any of the Toronto Star's values.
The press council also asked about the Star's source, the anonymous drug dealer who played them the video.
I'm still not clear why in those circumstances you felt anonymity was critical.
The Star says the source was afraid for his safety. The Globe article also cites 10 anonymous sources with connections to the drug trade, arguing they too were afraid to come forward publicly.
I need to know the truth.
The resident who launched the complaint against the Globe and Mail was in fact profiled by the Globe as a Ford supporter back in 2010.
We need to burn sources. I hate to use that word, but we have to. Either that or find some way to measure the credibility of these reports.
The press council will now try to measure that credibility and will report back in a few weeks. Its final decision must be published in both newspapers. Jeff Semple, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government has announced a 3-year freeze on employment insurance premium payments for businesses.
I am pleased to announce that we're going to take another step to support businesses in Canada.
Finance Minister Jim Flaherty says Ottawa can afford it because more Canadians are working and contributing to the program instead of drawing from it. Flaherty says the freeze will save businesses $660 million, which he says will help create even more jobs. Well, imagine buying something in a heartbeat. That's the idea behind a new technology intended to replace things like credit cards and even passwords for computers, tablets, and phones. Aaron Saltzman finds out how it works.
A visit to the offices of Security Compass can be an unsettling experience. Watch how easily these pros can grab someone's credit card information.
And there it is.
Instantaneous. Companies hire Security Compass to attack their computer systems to find out how vulnerable they are. And passwords, say these experts, aren't always good protection.
If they're alphanumeric, and usually they are because they have to be easy to remember, they're also correspondingly easier to break into.
What if instead of using your pet's name or your wedding anniversary or your child's birthday, there was something that replaced passwords altogether? This Canadian company is developing a device it says will not only make passwords and PINs passé, it will replace bank cards, credit cards, key cards. It will know who you are when you walk into a room, will unlock your tablet or smartphone, and it will do all of that by reading your heartbeat.
There's actually unique characteristics that relate to the size of the heart, the position of the heart, and the physiology surrounding the heart.
BioNIM has put an ECG sensor, much like the one doctors use, in a wristband. The sensor creates a unique pattern. The wristband links that pattern with an individual, then transmits that information to a computer or other device. If someone else puts on the wristband, it doesn't work. And BioNIM says it's more secure than fingerprint, face, or even iris scans.
All of these are essentially on the outside of your body, can be taken by photograph. So we see this as being much more secure, but also more convenient.
It's not the only fantastical sounding concept out there. Motorola is developing a temporary tattoo with a computer chip and antenna. They're even working on a pill that, when dissolved by stomach acid, turns the whole body into a kind of transmitter. But BioNIM's bracelet is much less invasive and likely much closer to reality. You can already pre-order one for about $80. And it's expected to hit the market next spring. Aaron Saltzman, CBC News, Toronto.
People who live in southern British Columbia will soon be just a drive away from stores that sell marijuana legally. Last year, Washington State voted to change its laws and allow marijuana to be sold in special retail locations. And as Chris Brown explains, some of them will be in border communities.
Well, I was an activist.
If there's ever a legal marijuana store in Canada, it may well look a lot like John Davis's in Seattle.
We have baked goods, what are called medibles. We have sweets and savories.
Right now, he dispenses medical marijuana products to people with a doctor's note. Everything from bud to chocolates, even marijuana sodas. It's part pharmacy, part bank. With recreational sales on the way, Davis plans to use this store as a template and apply for a retail license and sell to everyone.
I don't think that you're going to see something that is going to be wildly successful the first year. There's going to be a lot of problems with it. We're going to have to come back and revisit it.
Under the state's just released rules, there'll be up to 334 stores set up to sell pot, including up to 15 a few minutes' drive from the BC border. A gram, enough for a couple of joints, will retail for about $8 to $10, with roughly 40% of that tax. Of course, it's all got to stay in Washington state, and Canada's cannabis crusaders are looking south with envy. Today in Vancouver, they launched a drive to hold a province-wide referendum on decriminalizing pot. But that's only a half measure, considering what's emerging in Washington state.
I would love you to smell that. Can you get your nose down in there on that? Oh, and then
quite powerful. Morocco Kashnatocha grows her bud for medical users too. She's eyeing a license to produce it under the new regime controlled by Washington State's Liquor Board.
I think what it means for the whole rest of the plan is they start to think through that this is possible. If 2 states in the United States have legalized cannabis, then you can't say it's not possible in BC anymore.
That other state would be Colorado. Potrepreneurs will have until the end of December to submit their applications, with the first sales of legalized marijuana on track for the spring. Chris Brown, CBC News, Seattle.
Okay, let's take a look at today's market activity now. Toronto saw the TSX climb 33 points to 12,854. The Dow jumped 140 points, closing at 15,063. And the Nasdaq gained 46 points to 37,06. The dollar was up a third of a cent to 96.4 cents US. Gold held steady at $1,386 an ounce, and oil fell $1 to $109.52 a barrel. Tennis fans should be in for a treat for tonight. Of course, the men's final, the U.S. Open, goes this evening in what's shaping up to be a classic matchup.
Yeah, Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal. It was Djokovic who beat Nadal 2 years ago. The year before that, Nadal beat him. So they've only met once this year, and Djokovic won that. So the odds sort of might favor Nadal. You never know. You never know in tennis, that's for sure. Well, the final Grand Slam event of the year in that sport will come to a close tonight, featuring the top 2 male players in the world. It's number 1, Novak Djokovic of Serbia, facing the Spaniard, number 2 ranked Rafael Nadal. A new champ will be crowned after Andy Murray was upset last week. Meantime, the women's final took place yesterday, and the defending champ powered her way past Victoria Azarenka in the opening set 7-5. Then Serena Williams seemed to be struggling with the windy conditions as the Belarusian pounced to take the second set 7-6, but the third set was all Williams as she wins the third and deciding set easily, 6-1 to repeat as champ. She has 17 career Grand Slam championships. Week 11 in the CFL came to a close with a pair of games on Sunday. We'll begin with the upset of the week, and it happened in Winnipeg. It's the Banjo Bowl, a rematch of the Labor Day game between the Bombers and Rough Riders. First quarter, Justin Gold's picked off by Weldon Brown. The Winnipeg offense was non-existent in the first half. They had no first downs and 12 yards passing. After making it 3-zip, Saskatchewan kicks off. Will Ford bobbles it. He finds the handle, he'll find his seam, and he'll turn on the afterburners. He'll drop 98 yards to the end zone. It's the Bombers' first return touchdown in 9 years. That made it 7-3. Future Hall of Famer G. Roy Simon had a historic day. Late in the first quarter, the former BC Lion will haul in a pass from his quarterback, Darian Durant. This will be his 1,007th career catch, moving into second on the all-time list. Only former Alouette Ben Cahoon has more. Second quarter, the Bombers quarterback Goltz runs it in from the 3. Winnipeg led it 17-12. Goltz is back for an encore in the fourth. Winnipeg finally wins its first at home, 25-13. Yes, miracles do happen. In the East, it's the Argos and Alouettes tied at 30. Zach Caleros finds Dontrell Inman. Toronto by 7. Montreal with a chance to tie it. But Anthony Calvillo's replacement, Tanner Marsh from Arkansas Tech, will be picked off in the end zone by Amos Lawrence. The Argos hang on to win it 37-30. Week 1 in the NFL comes to a close with 2 games tonight. NFC East rivals the Eagles and Redskins hook up in Washington, followed in the late game by Houston and San Diego. Last night, Dallas scores the minor upset, 36-31 over the New York Giants, while New England had a tough go of it, but managed to get by Buffalo 24-21. Here's the rest of Sunday's story.
Packers 49ers tied at 7 in the second quarter. Colin Kaepernick takes off. Kaepernick drilled by Clay Matthews out of bounds. Tempers flare after offsetting penalties. It's incorrectly ruled third down instead of fourth. Kaepernick finds Anquan Bolden his first touchdown as a Niner. San Fran wins 34-28. Seahawks Panthers, Seattle down 1 in the fourth. Russell Wilson hits Jermaine Kearse, 43-yard touchdown. Seahawks win 12-7. Cardinals Rams, Sam Bradford connecting with tight end Jared Cook. Cook, 2 touchdowns in his Rams debut. St. Louis victorious 27-24. Falcons Saints head coach Sean Payton back following a 1-year suspension. Drew Brees threw for over 350 yards and 2 scores, including this touchdown to Jimmy Graham. Saints take it 23-17. Vikings, Lions, Reggie Bush making his regular season debut for Detroit. He had 90 rushing yards, 101 receiving yards, including this 77-yard score. Lions take it 34-24. Bengals Bears, former Alouettes head coach Mark Trestman making his NFL head coaching debut for Chicago. Fourth quarter, Bears down 4. Jay Cutler to Brandon Marshall. The go-ahead score there. Bears come back and win 24-21. Buccaneers and Jets, late fourth quarter. Jets down by 2. Rookie quarterback Geno Smith takes off. He's hit out of bounds. It's a 15-yard penalty against Tampa Bay. Sets up a 48-yard game-winning field goal. Jets win 18-17. Dolphins Browns, third quarter. Ryan Tannehill to Brian Hartline. 34-yard touchdown. Miami wins 23-10. Raiders, Colts, Andrew Luck finds the veteran Reggie Wayne. Colts win 21-17. Chiefs, Jaguars, Andy Reid making his regular season debut as Chiefs head coach. Alex Smith threw 2 touchdown passes, including this one to Junior Hemingway. Chiefs win big, 28-2. Titans, Steelers, Jackie Battle punches it in. Tennessee's lone TD. They had 3 field goals, knocking off Pittsburgh 16-9.
The senior men's baseball playoffs started yesterday at Baseball Central. The Daytona Dodgers doubled up the on-deck A's 2-1. Adam Josephchuk tossed a complete Game 4 hitter, while the Coastal Steel Orioles drubbed the Boston Pizza Red Sox 6-1. In the majors, the Jays would swing for the sweep at Target Field in Minnesota, taking on Canadian pitcher Andrew Albers. Top three with two Jays in the nest. Brett Lawrie smokes a liner, but Brian Dozier climbs the ladder for the great grab. That would end the inning. Albers, very solid, tosses 7 shutout innings, giving up 4 hits and 5. Jay starter Esmail Rogers, he was sharp himself last time out with a 1-hitter against Arizona. He gets some defensive support. Ryan Goins will make the sliding play, throwing out Oswaldo Arcia from his knees. Shades of Roberto Alomar there. That would even impress the Twins, but not Albers. To the 6th, it's Pedro Foreman. Lining one up the middle. Moises Sierra and Roger Davis get crossed up as they bang into each other. That results in a 2-bagger for the Twins. 2 batters later, with Chris Herman at the dish, he will ground to second. It's Goins going home with it. Tilnell Floorman at the plate. Rogers leads with a shutout and a 3-hitter. Top of the 8th with 1 on. Jose Reyes will find the gap in right center. And that'll be a double. Goins scores. Toronto ends up sweeping Minnesota 2-0. They host the LA Angels at the Rogers Center tomorrow night. NHL news, it's finally official. Calgary Flames goalie Mika Kiprusoff has announced his retirement. He spent the last 9 years with them. John Tavares has been named the 14th captain in New York Islanders history. And most teams will open their training camps on Wednesday. In Ottawa, Winnipeg native Mark Stone is hoping to finally make the grade.
I mean, I want to play the NHL full time now. So this is a year that I can possibly do it. So just trying to take full advantage of it. And I got I think there's 8 preseason games. Need to prove myself and prove that I can play in the league. I mean, we lost a lot of guys, and I saw spots open. So I'm excited. It's gonna be a new look in Ottawa, and the expectations are just getting higher and higher.
The Sports Top Midget AA Queens lost in the semifinals of a tournament in Stony Creek, Ontario, 2-1. To a prep school from Winnipeg. They're off to New Hampshire for another tournament at the end of the month. In Venezuela, Canada had to beat Argentina and get some help to move on at the FIBA Americas men's basketball tournament. Would not happen as Indiana pacer Luis Scola netted a game-high 28 points, and he would lead Argentina past our national team 73-67. In case you missed it over the weekend, wrestling has been reinstated for the 2020 Olympics 7 months after they lost their spot. It would beat out a combined bid from baseball and softball. Sebastian Vettori has moved a step closer to winning a 4th straight Formula One title, winning the Italian Grand Prix Sunday morning in Monza. He has 6 wins already this year, and Esteban Toledo won his 2nd Champions Tournament this year, taking the Montreal Championship on the 3rd extra hole over Kenny Perry. He's the first Mexican ever to win a Champions Tour event. So if you ever playing Trivial Pursuit this week, feel free to use that.
That's what you're going to need, yeah. All right, thanks very much, Randy.
All right, well, on such a wet, dark night, we've got some light, fun comedy for you. With more, here's a complete lineup on Teletalk.
Tonight we've got high fashion and the lowest common denominator on Global Thunder Bay. Starting at 8 on 27 Dresses, can Jane play the perfect bridesmaid when her sister marries the man she loves? And at 10 on Under the Dome, the Dome's residents demand justice for Barbie's supposed crimes. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay tonight, we have absolute proof and some not-so-clear answers. First at 8 on Murdoch Mysteries, a delusional woman becomes the prime suspect in a murder. Then at 9, during an inquest, Aiden finds his fitness for duty the subject of debate on Cracked. And at 11:35, Michael J. Fox talks with George about his new show. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Well, it was a very rainy day throughout the city today, but I guess on a positive note, Fiona, not the amount of rain we were supposed to get earlier in the day that they projected.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely a glass half full kind of way of looking at it. Full of rain, but still half full. We could have gotten up to 50 millimeters of rain. Nowhere near that fell, but we did get our fair share. And temperatures topped out at about 16 Celsius, so about 2 or 3 degrees below the norm for this time of year, but that's going to change as well. If we take a look at what's going on in the west, lots of sunshine out west, and temperatures not too bad. 21 seems to be the magic number for Prince George and Vancouver. 22 for Alberta, definitely above seasonal for southern Alberta, and nice and dry. However, there is a severe thunderstorm warning still in effect for southern Saskatchewan in Gull Lake, which is about there or so, and into Dinsmore, which is just south of Saskatoon. But still, we've got a few sunny breaks here and there, 22 for both for Saskatoon and 24 Regina. So we head towards Winnipeg. They've had light rain much of the day. They're currently at 18 Celsius. And Toronto, well, a lot of the heat is going to be moving into southern Ontario from the southwest. Right now, fairly seasonal, 18 Celsius, partly cloudy, but they're going to be hit hard. Tomorrow they could see temperatures about 34, and that, my friends, is without the Humidex, so we'll have to see how that works out. Ottawa currently also at 18 under partly cloudy skies, and they're going to see heat and thunderstorms as well. Quebec City currently at 17, seasonal and sunny day there. In Fredericton, they're enjoying last bit of sunshine for a while because the forecast is looking awfully gray for New Brunswick, but right now they're at 17 Celsius. Meanwhile, Charlottetown at 14, Halifax at 15 are a little below seasonal, but they are enjoying a bit of sunshine. St. John's currently at 12 Celsius. Sun has already gone down that far east, and relatively clear, but the winds have been gusting up to 65 kilometers per hour. On a more positive note, it's been from the southwest, so it's been slightly warmer air, and it hasn't been as chilly as it could have otherwise been. This low moving through today and into tonight. We're still looking at the tail end of this system as we head into tomorrow, so we're not going to get rid of it right away. And in fact, we have another front moving in that could bump a little bit more rain into the region for Wednesday as well. The good news is behind that, looking very dry for the second half of the week and so far into the weekend. So we'll cross our fingers on that if you've got plans. Now tonight, pretty mild, low teens, but this is above normal for this time of year. Looking mainly cloudy to the west. We've got rain further eastward, and Thunder Bay right between the two. We're also looking at more rain as well. But tomorrow, temperatures are already going to be popping slightly above 20, but there, as I said, is still a risk of showers, and Sault Ste. Marie could even be in that pocket of precipitation in southern Ontario where it's a little more active, and they could be seeing some thunderstorms. At this hour, we're at 16 Celsius. There's a lot of mist out there. It's not quite raining, it's not quite fog, it's just very misty and very wet. Tonight in Thunder Bay, we'll hit a low of 14, 3 to 5 millimeters is expected. First thing in the morning, 14 Celsius, that low will still be there. Cloudy skies. By the end of the day, though, we could see a couple periods of rain, but a high of 19, so it's definitely an improvement over today if you want warmer temperatures, and that's the high for the day. Wednesday, variable cloud, risk of a couple of showers, 23, and then unfortunately with those clearer skies, drier conditions, comes a bit of a dip in temperatures. 14 on Thursday, 17 on Friday. We're back up to 19 by Saturday, which is not a bad way to start the weekend in September.
Not bad at all. All right, thanks very much, Fiona. Well, everybody, of course, loves a parade, even more so when that parade features puppies. I've got that for you coming up right after these words.
Well, it's a point of pride for these cruising canines. You're looking at pictures from the 19th annual Dachshund Parade in Krakow, Poland. The theme this year, length matters. So it's probably not much of a stretch to say some of these dogs, and their owners of course, have gone to great lengths to strut their stuff.
Would I be safe in guessing it was probably a rather short parade?
Oh.
Okay, I take that back.
That was bad.
Recap our top story of the day. A new chapter in the battle between the Canadian Lakehead Exhibition and ousted board member Linda Gamby. The CLE today released minutes from some of its meetings, which seem to refute Gamby's claim to TBT News that she never threatened legal action against the board.
And Monday Night Football, a good NFC East battle between Philadelphia and Washington. We'll have highlights later on.
And don't put your umbrellas away just yet. Looking at about 3 to 5 millimeters overnight tonight, a low of 14. Then tomorrow, more rain. So don't leave home without the umbrella. That's all I'm suggesting.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night.